What if I told you that right now, thousands of people are living completely mortgage-free, in homes they built for less than the price of a used car, and every single morning, they wake up to a different view. No 30-year loan, no landlord, no permanent address, just four wheels, a tiny door, and the entire country as their backyard. Sounds like a fantasy, right? It's not. It's 2026, and this is one of the fastest growing housing movements in America. But here's what nobody tells you before they sink $80,000 into a home the size of a parking space. Stick around to the end, because I'm going to show you the one mistake that ruins this lifestyle for so many people who try it, and exactly how to avoid it. Before we go any further, if you're even a little curious about tiny living, hit subscribe and tap the like right now. It genuinely helps this channel keep making videos like this. And trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming later. Okay, let's get into it. So let's start with the basics, because tiny home on wheels gets thrown around a lot, and most people picture something different than what it actually is. A tiny home on wheels, sometimes shortened to THOW, is a fully functional house. Kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, living space, built directly on top of a heavy-duty trailer chassis. Most of them run somewhere between 16 and 35 feet long. Picture a cozy cabin that somehow got mounted on wheels and can legally drive down the highway behind a big enough truck. This is different from an RV in one huge way. An RV is built like a vehicle first. Lightweight materials, factory line, designed to be replaced every decade or so. A tiny home on wheels is built like an actual house first, and the trailer is just how it travels. Real insulation, real framing, usually wood or steel. Real windows that don't leak. Some even have second-story lofts with skylights. The goal isn't just shelter you can move. It's a home you'd be proud to invite people into that just happens to be portable. And in 2026, this isn't some fringe subculture anymore. It's become a legitimate, mainstream housing alternative. Remote work made location far less important than it used to be. Traditional home prices have kept climbing in most major cities, and a growing number of people, especially younger buyers and retirees, are looking at the math on a standard mortgage and deciding there has to be a better way. Tiny homes on wheels are one answer they're landing on. Now let's talk money, because this is where most videos on this topic either lowball you with a fantasy number or scare you off with an inflated one. I actually dug through current 2026 pricing data instead of guessing. So let's break down what this actually costs right now. If you go the full DIY route, building it yourself, sourcing your own materials, doing your own labor, you're realistically looking at somewhere between $15,000 and $40,000. That's the low end, and it comes with a catch we'll get to in a minute. It will cost you hundreds of hours of your own time, and if you've never framed a wall or run electrical before, there's a real learning curve. If you go with a prefab shell, basically a weather-tight structure that's already built, and you finish the interior yourself, you can get started for as little as $10,000 to $15,000 for the shell alone, though the total project, once you add plumbing, electrical, insulation, and finishes, usually lands closer to the mid-range numbers. For most buyers who want a professionally built, turnkey tiny home, meaning you literally just move in, the realistic 2026 price range is between $70,000 and $150,000, with most people landing somewhere between $80,000 and $130,000. Builders who use repeatable, factory-style production methods tend to land on the lower and more consistent end of that range, while fully custom, one-off builds tend to push costs higher because every single system has to be engineered from scratch. To put that in perspective, the median price of a traditional home in the US recently crossed $400,000. So even at the high end, a tiny home on wheels can cost roughly a quarter to a third of a conventional house. That's the entire appeal in one sentence. But, and this is important, the cost doesn't stop at the build. You need a budget for things people constantly forget. Specialized hauling and transport permits to actually move the thing, which can run into the thousands depending on distance and width. Insurance, which works differently than standard homeowners insurance, because you're insuring something that's technically closer to a vehicle. Monthly utilities, which are lower than a normal house, but not zero. Most owners report paying somewhere between $50 and $150 a month, depending on climate and whether they're off-grid. And if you want to go off-grid with solar panels and battery banks, that upfront investment alone can run anywhere from a few $1,000s for a basic setup to well over $10,000 for a serious system that can handle real winters. So here's the honest bottom line on cost. This is not free housing. It is dramatically cheaper than a traditional home, but it is not pocket change. And the people who get burned are almost always the ones who budgeted for the build and completely forgot about everything around the build. Here's where things get a little less glamorous, but I promise this section could save you tens of thousands of dollars. So stick with me. A tiny home on wheels typically gets classified, legally, closer to a recreational vehicle than a permanent house. That classification actually matters a lot. It affects what kind of financing you can get. Most traditional mortgage lenders won't touch a tiny home on wheels, which means owners usually turn to personal loans, or in some cases RV-specific loans, which can carry higher interest rates than a standard mortgage. It affects insurance, and it massively affects where you're legally allowed to park and live in it long term. This is the single biggest reason tiny home dreams fall apart, and it has nothing to do with the home itself. Zoning laws vary wildly depending on the city, county, and even the specific neighborhood you're looking at. Some areas are tiny home friendly and actively welcome them, sometimes even allowing them as accessory dwelling units on someone else's property. Other areas will flat out tell you that you cannot legally live in a structure on wheels on a residential lot. Full stop, no exceptions. And plenty of areas sit in a frustrating gray zone where the rules are unclear or inconsistently enforced, which means you could be fined for years, or you could get a knock on the door telling you to move. The takeaway is simple but critical. Before you spend $1 on the build, figure out where you're actually going to legally put it, and confirm that in writing if you can. Talk to the local zoning office, not a forum post from 3 years ago. Rules are shifting in places right now, with more cities updating accessory dwelling unit policies to be more tiny home friendly. But shifting friendlier does not mean friendly everywhere. And that's not something you want to learn the hard way after sinking $80,000 into a build. Now, I mentioned earlier there's one mistake that quietly wipes out the tiny home dream for a huge number of people. And it's not the zoning issue we just covered. It's something that happens after you've already moved in, once the excitement wears off. I'll walk you through exactly what it is near the end, along with how the smart owners get ahead of it. But first, why are people actually doing this? The reasons might surprise you. You'd think the number one reason people go tiny is just, it's cheaper. And sure, that's a massive factor. Surveys of tiny homeowners consistently show that affordability is the single biggest motivator, with the vast majority citing lower living costs as their primary reason for downsizing. But when you actually talk to people living this way, the financial angle is often just the door they walk through. What keeps them there is something else entirely. It's freedom of movement. If a job goes remote, or a relationship changes, or you just get bored of a place, you're not stuck. You're not trying to sell a house in a slow market. You hitch up and you leave. For people who work remotely, this has turned into an entirely different way of experiencing life. Waking up near mountains 1 month, near the coast the next. It's also a smaller environmental footprint. These homes use far less material to build, far less energy to heat and cool, and a lot of owners pair them with solar setups that get them close to fully self-sufficient. For people who care about sustainability, this isn't a side benefit, it's often the whole point. And there's a psychological piece too that doesn't get talked about enough. When your space is intentionally small, you're forced to be intentional about everything you own. A huge number of tiny homeowners report a genuine increase in quality of life after downsizing, not despite the smaller space, but because of it. Less to clean, less to maintain, less to worry about losing. There's a strange kind of peace that comes from owning less. Let's get practical for a second, because Instagram photos of tiny homes at sunset don't tell you what a normal Tuesday actually looks like. Most tiny homes on wheels fall somewhere between 100 and 400 square feet. To give that some context, a typical parking space is around 160 square feet. So you're talking about a home that could be smaller than the space your car sits in at the grocery store. That means design has to work overtime. Lofts for sleeping, fold-away tables, stairs that double as drawers, kitchens with induction cooktops instead of bulky ranges. Every single inch earns its place, or it doesn't make the cut. Water and power depend heavily on your setup. If you're hooked up an RV park or a piece of land with utilities, life looks pretty normal. You've got running water, power outlets, the basics. If you're off-grid, you're managing a water tank that needs refilling, a solar and battery system that needs monitoring, and in a lot of cases, a composting toilet instead of standard plumbing setup. It's not for everyone, and the people who thrive off-grid tend to genuinely enjoy the hands-on maintenance side of things, not just tolerate it. Climate matters more than people expect too. A tiny home with thin walls in a brutal winter is miserable, which is why serious builders in 2026 are putting real engineering into thermal breaks, proper insulation ratings, and ventilation systems that prevent condensation and mold. Because in a space this small, moisture problems can spiral out of control fast if the build quality isn't there. Storage is another thing people underestimate until they're actually living it. In a normal house, you can just buy a bigger dresser or shove a box in the garage. In a tiny home, every single item you own has to justify its existence. A lot of owners describe going through a slow, almost meditative purge process in their first few months. Donating clothes they haven't worn in years, digitizing photo albums, realizing they own 3 sets of dishes for a household of 1. It sounds small, but for a lot of people, that process ends up being one of the more unexpectedly rewarding parts of the whole transition. Then there's the actual towing and moving experience, which is its own skill. Hitching up a tiny home, checking tire pressure, verifying the load is balanced correctly, and driving something that can weigh well over 10,000 pounds down a highway is not something you want to learn by trial and error. Most experienced owners recommend practicing in an empty parking lot first, learning how wide your turns need to be, how much extra stopping distance you need, and how the whole rig behaves in crosswinds before you ever attempt a real move with all your belongings inside. And once you're actually moving, permits become part of the routine too. For any load approaching the maximum legal width, you may need to notify certain states in advance or even arrange an escort vehicle. So this isn't something you do on a whim the morning you decide to relocate. Community is a bigger part of this than most people expect going in. There are entire networks of tiny homeowners who share land, trade parking spots, and swap tips on everything from tiny home-friendly RV parks to which composting toilet brands actually hold up. A lot of first-timers assume this lifestyle will be isolating and find the opposite, a surprisingly tight community happy to help the next person figure it out. So if this sounds appealing so far, how do you actually start? There are really 3 paths. Path 1 is buying from a professional builder. You get consistency, warranties, and something you can move into almost immediately. This is the path for people who value their time more than they value saving money. And honestly, with more manufacturers moving toward factory-style repeatable production in 2026, quality and consistency have gotten noticeably better than they were even a few years ago. Path 2 is a hybrid build, buying a prefab shell and finishing the interior yourself. This is the sweet spot for a lot of people. You skip the hardest structural engineering, which is genuinely dangerous to get wrong on something that has to survive highway speeds, and you keep the fun, creative part, the interior, for yourself. Path 3 is full DIY. This is for people who genuinely want to learn the skills, have the time to invest, and are comfortable researching trailer weight ratings, axle capacity, and structural framing before they touch a single tool. It's the cheapest path by far, but it demands the most from you. And mistakes here aren't just expensive. They can be dangerous once that home is doing 65 miles an hour down a highway. Whichever path you choose, there are a few non-negotiables. First, the trailer itself needs to be rated for the actual weight of the finished home, with margin to spare. This is not a place to cut corners. Second, get real quotes, not rough estimates, for every trade you're not doing yourself, especially electrical and plumbing, because tiny homes require custom routing that a lot of contractors underestimate on their first attempt. Third, build in a contingency of at least 10 to 20% on top of whatever your budget is, because hidden costs in this space are less if and more when. Alright, this is the moment I've been building toward. Here's the mistake that derails this lifestyle for so many people, and it has nothing to do with money or construction quality. It's underestimating the psychological adjustment of small space living long-term, specifically with another person or a family. Living tiny for a weekend, or even a month, feels novel and exciting. Living tiny for years, sharing 150 square feet with a partner, working from home in the same space you sleep, eat, and relax in. That's a completely different experience. Couples who don't talk honestly beforehand about personal space, alone time, and how they'll handle disagreements in a home with nowhere to walk away to, often find a crack show up around month 6 to month 12, right after the honeymoon phase of the lifestyle wears off. The owners who make this work long-term do a few specific things differently. They design in at least some separation of space, even in a tiny footprint. A loft that's just for one person, a reading nook, something. They get comfortable going outside, a lot, treating the outdoors as an extension of their living room rather than something separate. And they have honest conversations before they build, not after, about what happens if one person wants to stop traveling and the other doesn't. If you take one thing away from this entire video, let be this: the trailer, the insulation, the solar panels. None of that is what makes or breaks this lifestyle. The humans inside it are. A few trends worth watching. Zoning laws are slowly loosening in more cities as accessory dwelling unit policies get modernized, which could open up more legal parking and living options over the next couple of years. Build quality keeps climbing as more manufacturers shift toward factory style, repeatable production instead of one-off custom builds, which historically has meant more consistency and often lower relative costs. And financing is slowly expanding too, as lenders start recognizing this as a real, growing category rather than a niche hobby. None of that makes this lifestyle suddenly easy or risk-free. It's not. But it means that if you're seriously considering this in 2026, you're doing it at a better moment than people who tried this a decade ago, when the industry was far less mature. One last practical piece before we wrap up, because this is the question I get asked constantly. What happens if you decide this lifestyle isn't for you anymore? The good news is that a well-built tiny home on wheels, especially one built by a reputable manufacturer with a track record of quality construction, tends to hold its value reasonably well, particularly compared to a standard RV, which depreciates fast the moment it leaves the lot. A tiny home built like an actual house, with real materials and proper craftsmanship, appeals to a resale market that values durability over flashy factory features. That said, maintenance is not optional, and it's not something you can put off the way you might with a traditional house. Roofing and siding need regular inspection, especially after long tows, because vibration from travel can loosen seals and fasteners in ways a stationary home never has to deal with. Plumbing needs winterizing if you're anywhere near freezing temperatures. And the trailer itself, the axles, the brakes, the hitch, needs the same kind of regular attention you'd give a heavy trailer or a car, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what it is mechanically, even if it doesn't feel that way when you're cooking dinner inside it. The owners who get the most long-term value out of this lifestyle treat maintenance as a routine, not an emergency response. A quarterly check of the roof seals, an annual inspection of the trailer's mechanical components, and staying on top of small repairs before they become big ones. It's a small amount of effort that makes an enormous difference over a 5 or 10-year ownership period. So, mortgage-free, movable, and small enough to fit in a parking space. Is it for everyone? Absolutely not. But for the right person, with the right research and honest conversations before they build, it might be one of the smartest housing decisions available right now. If this video helped you understand what you're getting into, hit subscribe because I got more real, no-fluff breakdowns like this coming. And if you're already living tiny or thinking about it, drop a comment and tell me where you're planning to park. I read every single one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.